So we're going to use watercolor to make a background for our lily pond, like Monet. There are two different ways you can go about this. So one of them is just making little marks with whatever colors you choose. You're not stuck to just blue. You could put some purples in there, maybe a little bit of green, but you want to stick with colors that are mostly reflected in the water. Might look a little odd if you did some colors that aren't. So notice I'm just making little marks. I'm switching my purples up as I go and then kind of filling in that white space, but I'm not being really particular with where I put my marks. So I'm going to speed this up a little bit. And you'll notice too, like that color just started to blend together. So if you accidentally paint in the same spot, it will blend together. You can kind of do it in layers. You can work how I just did, where I'm doing two at the same time. Or you can do one color and then do a different color and layer it over it. I'm going to do that with blue here in just a second. But you just want to fill most of the space. It's okay if there is some white, but you want to fill most of it with whatever color you're choosing for your water. So now I'm going to switch gears and I'm going to teach you a different technique. It's called wet on wet. You'll need a bigger brush for this. You put just water on your paper. I know it's hard to see, and then you just blot whatever color you're wanting to do, and it just kind of bleeds into the water. Super fun, something different than what we normally do, but it's totally up to you which technique you want to do. You'll notice too, I'm mixing it up like I did on the first one and doing different colors. You just blot your color on there and it should bleed and kind of run together. So once you finish your watercolor, you'll get a different piece of paper and you're going to start drawing your lilies and the lily pads that go with them. So start with a U shape and then kind of make a zigzag line with a little bit of a curve to it. It's like we're looking at the flower from the side. I like to add another petal in between each one just to make it look different. You could make your lily pads separate from your lily and then just glue them on top of each other later. Or on this one, I will draw the lily pad attached to the flower. You can make them different sizes, but I would still go pretty big. You don't want to make them really small. I'm going to ask that you do 3 of these, but you can make more if you would like. So you can see there I overlapped my lily pad. And then I'm going to make a little bit smaller one right here. But it's up to you if you want to attach the lily pad or not. So we're going to try oil pastels with these. I recommend for the lily pad, choosing whichever green you like best and filling in the whole thing. Just coloring it in nicely, getting that whole space filled. And then I would use a different green and kind of make swirls on it. Gives it a little bit more texture. It's not going to show up perfectly, and it's not supposed to, but fill that whole space with those little swirls. It'll just make it look a little different. You could even add a little bit of white in there. It'll kind of change the green up as well. So then for your flower, you'll want to pick 2 colors that are similar. So I'm going to do light blue for the top. I'm going to color pretty hard, fill in all that space. I'm only going to do half of my flower, or about half. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'm going to get those top parts of my petals. And then we're going to blend it with a different color. So I'm going to do dark blue for mine. So I'm going to color that on there. Remember, if you overlap your oil pastel, they'll kind of blend on their own. Sometimes they don't, and so you might have to use your finger to blend it, which is totally fine too. It's up to you. I like to do a little bit of both. Just depends on what I'm doing or what it looks like. Or you could overlap it with the first color again. That's a cleaner way to do it. Your fingers don't get as messy. And then for those little petals sticking up in the back, they should be lighter because they're further away. So I'm gonna add a little white. I know you can't see that I added white. And then I'll put a little bit of that light blue on it, so it should look just a little bit lighter than the rest of my flower. You'll do the same thing on your other flowers, just with different colors, and you'll want to still color your lily pads green, but it could be whichever green you prefer.